What's going on, everyone? So I did a video talking about the Kristaps Porzingis news and how Kristaps Porzingis thought that he was being traded to the San Antonio Spurs when he was told that he was being traded, and then it turns out that it was the Atlanta Hawks, which I think is very interesting because that means the Spurs must have been pretty close to trading for him because I'm sure he wasn't in the dark about the trade and stuff. And so I'm sure he was told, like, hey, these are the teams that are trying to trade for you, so on and so forth. And I think it's something to kind of keep an eye out on for maybe even next season. If he works out with Atlanta, it's very possible Atlanta looks to re-sign him, but he is on an expiring contract. He will be an unrestricted free agent next year, so it could be something that the Spurs maybe look to bring in a guy in a Kristaps Porzingis in the offseason. However, I want to talk about the potential for a Lauri Markkanen. Right? If the Spurs were interested in bringing in a Kristaps Porzingis, you could argue the closest thing to that is a Lauri Markkanen, a 7-footer that can shoot the lights out, right? Do multiple things out there. I don't think he's the rim protector that a Kristaps Porzingis is, but as far as like that 7-footer that can slot in at even the 3 at times. I mean, Utah was having him play the 3 at times with success, but really a 4 or 5 with his height, with his size, and a guy that puts up very similar stat lines. I think Lauri Markkanen is a guy that you may even potentially look to move. Danny Ainge, look, if he gets a good deal, he's more than happy to take it. There's kind of been these questions about how long-term do they look at a Lauri Markkanen as their future and foundation? I mean, Lauri Markkanen saw it alongside Victor Wembanyama, could be really kind of fun and really, an upgrade. And, you kind of look at like, what's the one position that they arguably could need more than anything, and it's the 4. There's questions about Jeremy Sochan. Is he going to actually be able to move into that clear-cut starter? But you're going to need him to have some type of offensive game. It looks good in shoot-arounds in an open gym, but open gyms are not the same thing as actual NBA games. A lot of guys that look very good. Ben Simmons is a great example, right? Ben Simmons, every year we get the highlight tape of him knocking down threes, and then you get to the actual NBA and the guy can't hit a 3 to save his life. So again, I'm not saying that will be Jeremy Sochan. It's very possible that he kind of continues to grow and develop and, actually does develop a 3-point shot. But if it's not this year, somebody like Lauri Markkanen could really kind of help come in, maybe even packaging a Jeremy Sochan in order to pull that off. Even if not necessarily this season, maybe in the off season, right? I'd want to give Jeremy Sochan a fair chance, fair shake. But if it doesn't work out and it's like, you're going to have to go into a contract year, maybe you're working on a sign and trade to bring in a Lauri Markkanen, you'd have to probably send out some other pieces, but maybe you're doing a Devin Vassell and a Jeremy Sochan in order to bring in a Lauri Markkanen. The problem is Lauri Markkanen's contract. That's the only real issue. And the Spurs are going to get expensive fast, very fast, right? I mean, you got De'Aaron Fox who's going to be doing a new contract or extension this year. Top of that, you have Jeremy Sochan, and then the next year it's Victor Wembanyama, and then the next year it's so in the next 3-4 years, this team's going to get very expensive very fast. However, Lauri Markkanen, again, maybe is a guy that you bring in and you're kind of like, we can kind of figure it out. If it works, right? It's kind of like, hey, who cares if you're winning championships? You got to pay to play, right? Type thing. But his contract is pretty hefty. That's kind of the big thing that I don't know why Utah paid him the max contract. I wouldn't have given him the max. I don't think anyone else would have given him the max. But nonetheless, he's got the max. And the problem is he's making $46.4 million this year, 46.1 next year, so it drops slightly, but then it goes up to 49.8 and then 53.3, and there's no option, player or team option. So talk about a guy that, again, is going to make 46, almost 47 million to as high as 53 million in that final year, and that'll be into when everyone else is starting to get paid. So it's one of those things where it's like, is that the best move for the Spurs as far as contract-wise goes? But again, you look at a guy, he's 28, just turned 28 too, by the way. But he's young enough to be kind of this foundation piece long-term, gives you that floor spacing, gives you that shooting. Cap is going up each year, so maybe, like I said, maybe you're doing a kind of consolidation trade. It's like, hey, we're going to pay $40 million out to these guys anyway, or $50 million out to these guys anyway. Let's kind of put them together and go get a Lauri Markkanen and then kind of have some, kind of upgrade the front end, right, and the higher tier end. Right, that could be a possibility. But you look at Lauri Markkanen, and again, he's very similar to the stat line of a Kristaps Porzingis. He's 19 points, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists on 42.5% shooting from the field, and a lot of that is because of the three-point shooting. Again, he's not the shot blocker, that a Kristaps Porzingis is, but he is a guy that has he's 7 feet, right? He's a big man that can spread the floor, slot in at the 4, slot in at the 5. Him and Victor Wembanyama, I think, could, really be fun. And just again, I talked about this with like the possibility of a Kristaps Porzingis, like having De'Aaron Fox with his ability to create that dribble penetration and wanting to kind of spread the floor and stuff, to have units out there where you can go kind of 5 wide, have a Lauri Markkanen and Victor Wembanyama kind of out on the perimeter to where Wemby can kind of, or De'Aaron Fox kind of get to where he wants to get in his spots. Defense collapses, easy kick out to a guy like a Lauri Markkanen. And also I think Lauri Markkanen would be perfect because I don't think he's like your first or second option on a team. I think as a third option, you're probably a very good basketball team. And you have De'Aaron Fox. You have Victor Wembanyama. So Lauri Markkanen is a guy that I think could really kind of slot in and play that role for you. So again, I don't hate it. It's a little pricey. It also depends on what else you'd have to give up. Like I'm not really giving up a ton of assets for him. Maybe like a protected pick. But I think, if you were to kind of package consolidate some of these young guys, better contracts, I think you might be able to get him. But you look at his last season, 47 games played, 47 games start. Now, the games played is very misleading with Utah because Utah, especially last year, sat all of their starters like weeks at a time. Like I wish it was exaggerated. They made the Spurs, rest look good. Spurs kind of made that famous, resting your starters. Nah, Utah was like, we're just going to do that for like 2 weeks straight, right? So probably would have been around, maybe like 57, 60 games. He's the most games he's ever played is 68, and that was his rookie season, right? So some concerns there about his health, but 31.4 minutes per game, 15 field goal attempts per game, 42.3% overall. He shot last year 35% from three-point range on 8.5 attempts. However, he's a career 37% three-point shooter. It's like Kristaps Porzingis on 6.8 attempts. And you look at the last handful of years. He was 40% on 8 attempts. He was 39% on 8 attempts. He was 40.2% on 6 attempts, right? So again, this is a guy that on volume give you 40% from three-point range, and especially having guys like De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, the quality of looks that he would get much higher than when you're kind of the guy and all the defenses are trying to slow you down and defend you. 2-point range on 6.4 attempts, shot 52.5% from the field, 52% EFG. Free throw shooting 8%. He's a career 87% on 4 attempts, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, a steal, half a block, and 19 points per game. So again, he's not the defender that Kristaps Porzingis is, but he is a guy that can stretch the floor, kind of gives you a lot of the same similarities. I wouldn't hate it. Right? Again, it just depends on the cost. Probably not something I'd do this year, but definitely something to look forward to. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.